Hi there, meteorologist Ed Valley here, taking a look at the North American long range, and we're talking here about the first half of April, really the entire month of April. We'll get into, but it's mostly a first half of April discussion today. We'll have a checkup regarding precipitation, temperatures, and spring freezes, all that good stuff. We got a lot to talk about. So you can see we got a storm system moving through Texas this morning, parts of the Arklatex region into parts of Illinois. Got some heavy rain falling in parts of Illinois. Lighter rain and snow showers up across the upper Midwest and Dakotas. And then you notice dry in the west, dry in the southeast. And ahead of it, we're getting some nice warm weather in parts of the eastern belt today ahead of this cold front. But as you can imagine, during a transitional season month like March, you get one of these big, strong cold fronts. You get all of this warm, moist Gulf of Mexico air coming up from the south, and it slams into these storms coming in from the west, and the result is not only severe weather, but a lot of heavy rain locally. So let's start with, speaking of heavy rain, what fell over the last 24 hours, and frankly, it was welcome rain in a lot of the upper Midwest and northern plains, 1/10 to 3/4 of an inch up here, even more so eastern Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, anywhere from 1/2 to 1.5 inches, and that's moving into parts of Illinois right now. Western Illinois, 1/10 to 1/2 inch already this morning, and we got more where that came from. You can include southeast Iowa in that as well. So again, looking at that radar, you can see that moisture streaming northward, and that's going to be the story here moving forward. Now, looking at the last 30 days, you can see the northwestern belt is turning drier again. Even the places in the plains that got rain, only some areas of Kansas and Nebraska are now above normal. It's almost like the same as last year. You know, northwestern Iowa, most of Nebraska, this whole northern area here is very dry. It looks like Pac-Man eating Minneapolis. But in all seriousness, you notice some dryness down south and a really good moisture across a lot of the eastern belt. But if you go back 180 days, basically dating back to September, you notice the southern plains, central plains has really been the issue. Northern parts of the part of the northern belt here has been pretty wet. We saw some good moisture last fall and early into the winter time, and you can see the eastern belt doing pretty well as well. But the story is really the plains, and you can see it on our drought monitor maps too. This is from NASA GRACE. Root zone soil moisture, that's looking at the top meter of soil. You can see where the problems are. Even with that rain in the Dakotas here this winter, you notice there's still quite a bit of drought. That's because again, it was wet a couple months ago. We're starting to dry that pattern out, right? So the western plains continue to be the problem areas over here, right? Further east, really, really good moisture. No issues. Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, western Ohio, Michigan, southeast Iowa, Missouri. So it's a tale of two belts, similar to last year. And that's going to be a story and talking point moving forward. As we look here at temperatures this month to date, as of yesterday, it's warm in the east, it's cooler in the plains. And yeah, that's really been the story. So I wanted to talk about, before we get into the severe weather, I do want to talk about, a lot of people have asked me about the time at which we can stop worrying about frost. And it's funny, you see the usual suspects, you know, take that for whatever you will. The usual suspects like to talk about how, you know, oh, we have cold weather coming up. It's April. Well, that's normal. It really is. You see the estimated last frost date. Frost is usually depicted 37, 38 degrees. So you notice the last time that occurs in north of I-80 is in May. Sometimes late May in the far north. Down south, it's late April. Southern Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, southwest Ohio. And it's early April down in Kansas, Missouri, and parts of southern Illinois and southwest Indiana. So we're not there yet, right? So any cold that we have should not be a surprise. You know, this is the time that this can happen. So just wanted to put that out there for you to make sure you have a reference for last frost times. But kind of reverting back here to the more near term. We do have significant severe weather today with that front moving through southern parts of the Ag Belt, especially the Mississippi Delta, a moderate risk for severe weather. That's a big deal It could come with tornadoes, a lot of tornadoes in Mississippi, parts of the Mississippi Delta here. Wind and a little bit of hail. So wind and tornadoes are going to be the biggest issues here. And that'll spread east tomorrow into the eastern U.S., okay? So let's go through here and kind of look at the timing on this. I won't spend too much time on it, but it is important. We got heavy rains in Illinois today, and then you get that severe weather through the evening, a line of severe thunderstorms. But again, the heavy rain in Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio cannot be understated. And there might even be some snow on the backside in parts of Iowa and the west or eastern plains overnight tonight into early Thursday. And that should lead to some rain or snow showers across the eastern belt for Thursday into Thursday night. Okay, and you look at the total precip here, it is pretty impressive, right? This is, let me pull up the latest run here so you get the full effect. It's a lot of rain. 1 to 3 inches of rain in Illinois, southeastern Missouri, western portions of Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee. Even back west, it's a trace to a quarter of an inch. So it's really the rich get richer, the poor stay poor when it comes to that heavier rainfall risk, right? So that takes us through the day on Thursday. And if we look into the longer range here, you'll notice it's a pretty benign pattern, a few rain or snow showers this weekend. And into early next week, no major storm systems. The next major storm system looks to arrive sometime in the middle of next week, but you can see kind of disjointed, right? So I do believe we're going to get more active middle of next week, but how much rain still remains to be seen, okay? And that takes us right through the first 8 or 9 days here of April. And if you look at temperatures, we talked about frost being normal this time of the year. We're looking at daily min temps. You can see the date here in the top. You notice plenty of cold left in the tank. I mean, we have lows really close to freezing here on the 8th of April. That's because you look at the max temps, they're only in the 50s and 60s. So it's not all that warm to open April. So I think our expectations have to be set in order to not be upset by this, cooler pattern, right? But it does look like here we are going to be on the cooler side for the first week of April. And as we move into the longer range here, I wanted to talk briefly about the evolution. And it's interesting because you notice the pattern here in the short term is going to be dominated by this block of near Greenland. We call that a negative NAO. And as we get here into the longer term, you notice that block near Greenland starts to dissipate. Still pretty chilly in the east, like I said, through day 10, but in the 11 to 15 day, that's when the pattern looks to change, and it's likely going to kind of flip. So day 10, you notice a ridge in the west, trough in the east, and by day 13, it's completely opposite. And all models agree. All models agree. It's just an amplitude issue with the models. So our new hire, John Marker, took a look at what the atmospheric pattern looks like in some of our wettest Aprils in the plains. And here's what he came up with. And I find this interesting because 76 is an analog of ours. I found that interesting. 09 is on our list. Big trough in the west, ridge in the east usually yields wetter conditions in the plains. So what are we seeing on our longer range models? We're seeing something close. Trough west, ridge, central and east. Trough west, ridge east. Trough west, ridge east. You see that? So we're noticing a sign here in the 10 to 15 day where we could moisten things up a little bit. Still not as wet as we'd like to see. The GFS is a little wetter, and you notice the Canadian's not that wet either. But it's just something to keep in mind here. If we are seeing patterns that may suggest we may see at least some moisture here in the plains moving into the middle of April. Still not at a point where I'm confident to say that everything's resolved and we're going to be great. But hopefully this will yield at least some moisture in areas that really need it. And you notice the 14, 15 day forecast for precipitation. This is, or temperature back, this is like the 14th of April. You notice we're beginning to see some warmth develop down in the southern plains. While it's still kind of cool in the prairies and northwest, this could accelerate planting down in the southern plains here into the middle of April. But again, that northern belt continues to lean on the cooler side, and that may be a theme here through the month of April. So that's what we got for you today. Have a lovely Wednesday. We'll be back on Friday with another video. Take care.